Enterprise network security configuration concepts. Lab topology. During your session, you will have access to the following lab configuration. Depending on the exercises, you may or may not use all of the other devices, but they are shown here in the layout to get an overall understanding of the topology of the lab. Philip DC1, Philip DM1, Philip Win10, Philip Carry. Exercise 1, Importance of Security Concepts in an Enterprise Environment. Enterprise networks are usually large and complex. More devices you added on them, more complexity is added. With the enterprise network, it is critical to ensure highest level of security. You need to have security controls that are updated on a regular basis to ensure optimal security. There are different methods that can add security to a network environment. For example, having a redundant site also ensure that the redundant site is available even if the primary site goes down. This is also part of security, which is included in the CIA triad. With the redundant site, you ensure availability, which is critical aspect of security. In this exercise, you will learn about various important security concepts in an enterprise environment. Your device. This exercise contains supporting materials for security, configuration management, more organization to find a specific configuration for the endpoint and server. Keeping the configuration is the desired state is known as configuration management. The organization with the configuration management process can monitor and manage their system in a better way. For example, you roll out Windows operating system on all endpoints with only Office 365. It is easy for you to track. This is the configuration management process. A user may need to install another application as a part of the configuration management process. You need to approve this change and document it. The change is now documented and can be tracked. You can perform configuration management in a manual way or use a third-party application to track the changes that are made to the system configuration or if any unauthorized application is installed. In the configuration management process, each endpoint, server, or device is known as configuration items, which are tracked using configuration management database. Several other components play a key role in configuration management. Some of the key components are described below. Network diagram. A network topology diagram is a visual depiction of a network architecture. It is used different it uses different symbols and connections which are represented by lines. A network diagram can help a user understand the layout of the network. The network topology diagram should detail out how the network is designed. It should mention the following devices that are present on the network, connectivity between these devices, IP addresses and names of the devices. It shows a situation in which you have joined an organization as network administrator. You have been asked to troubleshoot a network problem without the help of network diagram. It would take you a while to understand the network architecture. However, if the network diagram is available, you can visualize the program quickly. It is also important to note that network diagrams are not static. As new devices are added or removed from the network, you should update the corresponding diagram even if an IP of a server chain has changed. You should update it on the diagram. Baseline configuration. A baseline configuration is based on the configuration parameter that has been set in an operating system. This parameter defines what is installed in the operating system. A baseline configuration once approved and rolled out serves as a base on which change can be implemented. Before baseline configuration is rolled out, it is defined with clear parameter and then tested. For example, an organization may have a separate baseline for desktop, another one for laptop, and the third one for the server. When the baseline configuration is created, it is tested stability and security. Once approved, the baseline configuration is rolled out on the system and server. An administrator monitors system and servers against the defined baseline. If a user installed a third-party application without the approval of the administrator, it is known as baseline configuration deviation. Standard naming convention. An organization can follow specific naming convention for users, group endpoints, servers, and network devices. Users, it can be combination of first name and first letter of username. For example, Josh Fairbanks account can be Josh F at practicelabs.com. Alternately, you can also have josh.fairbanks at practicelabs.com. Some organizations may follow another convention, which is the first letter of name and the surname. J. Fairbanks at practice-lab.com. Groups, just like the usernames, there is no fixed convention. An organization will simply name the groups as PLAB Marketing or PLAB Sales. Servers are critical and need to be clearly distinguished between the testing, development, and production servers. For example, a testing web server may be named as a PLAB test web. In the similar manner, a production web server can be named as PLAB prod web. Endpoints, the endpoints may be named after their group, department, or even follow specific series that is defined for tracking assets. For example, plab mk mk.josh or plab EP001 network devices. They can also be named using specific conventions such as plab prob ROP1. There is no specific rule about which naming convention an organization must follow. It depends on how you want to track user and group account on or any other devices on the network. However, it is critical that the one convention is used throughout for all users. Similarly, one convention for groups, another convention can be used for servers, endpoints, and network devices. Internet Protocol Schema. Network configuration management is a subset of the configuration management process in network configuration management. You have to keep track of the network devices, their configuration, and IP schema that is being used. It is essential for an organization to use a specific IP schema and manage it through the DHCP server. It is a good practice to define different IP addresses for servers and network devices. These are assigned static IP addresses and point are also assigned IP addresses from pools configured on the DCHP server. While dealing with a large network with a thousand of endpoint server and network devices, it is critical for the administrator to plan the entire IP schema carefully to avoid waste wastage of IP addresses, duplicate subnet, duplicate IP addresses. Data, so- data sovereignty. Each country has their data laws, and data sovereignty refers to maintaining the data privacy. The country's law specific where the information is being stored and now is shared and handled for an organization to work global environment. Multiple offices as different countries' data sover- sovereignty sovereignty must be considered. Let us consider an example of a virtual machine in the cloud environment. When moving a virtual machine from one geographic location to another geographic location in different country, you may face the data sovereignty issue. Each country has their data privacy laws. Data residing inside the virtual machine must comply with the laws of the country where you are moving the virtual machine. Data protection. Data security is critical to protection data. When you refer to the data security, you are essentially referring to confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data. Confidentiality, protecting the data from falling into the wrong hand and providing access only on the need to know basis. Integrity, maintaining the accuracy of consistency of the data is about protecting the data from any kind of tampering. There are different methods that can be used to protect the CIA of data within the organization. For example, you can implement encryption to protect the confidentiality of the data. Similarly, a method like replication or fault tolerance can provide availability. Let's look at some of the methods for data protection. Data loss prevention is a set of rules that are defined to protect confidential and sensitive information. DLP, as an application, contains several rules that help you define the system type of the data that the user can share. For example, within an organization, when DLP is implemented, it can scan the outbound email and track if any kind of sensitive or confidential information is being shared. You can have a rule you can have a rule defined that prevents sharing of financial reports or sharing of credit card number is an email or in an email or its attachment. Without DLP, it is not possible to track such as email with confidential information. However, the DLP implementation in place has as the administrator can define what type of information can the user share. When you share information with the users within an organization, you can set permissions such as forward or print. For example, you set a confidential management decision to your colleague. You, however, do not want the colleague to forward or print this email. Such restriction can be defined in the form of permission. The key intent of DLP is to tackle insider threat and also to meet the regulation-driven privacy required. DLP has three key use cases: protection the protection the personal information. DLP is a good tool if your organization deals with personally identifiable information, protected health information, or credit card information. This type of information are critical and are considered highly sensitive. With the help of DLP, this information can be protected. Protect the intellectual property. DLP can help an organization protect its IP information. For example, if an organization is into developing a unique product, it becomes critical for the organization to protect the product related information. DLP can help in implementing protection. Bring data visibility. DLP can help you track the information that is being used by the users. For example, can track who is using which information and who is sharing or attempting to share information. Masking. Data masking hides data by concealing letters and numbers within different characters. After data is concealed, it is masked behind the letters and numbers. When an authorized user accesses the concealed data, he or she is allowed to access it. Encryption. In most cases, individual or organization stores data in clear text format. In such a scenario, if a hacker gets hand on the data, it is vulnerable. The hacker can delete, modify, or simply steal the data. Data encryption software enhances data security by applying an algorithm and converts normal data into encrypted data, which can only be read by an authorized individual. If the data is stolen, depending on the algorithm used, the encrypted data may just be useless to the hacker. To an unauthorized person, the cipher data will be unreadable. Data can be encrypted in storage and in transit. At rest, in transit, motion, in processing. Data can be at different stages where there are three stages of any data that you created or maintain. Data at rest. This type of data is inactive and is either in storage or archive. It could be data stored on a hard drive, archive, or backed up in tapes. For example, a folder several files not have been backed up in a type drive. Data in transmit motion. This is the data that is traveling over a network from one device to another device, which can either be an endpoint server or even a network service. For example, if you are sending a file from your system to another system. Data in use. This type of data is being changed constantly when you are working on a file on your system. The file is the data in use. To protect data at any stage, you need to ensure that it is encrypted. Tokenization is a method of replacing an actual string of data with a unique identification symbols or numbers. This way, if anyone gets hold on the string of text, they cannot decipher it. Tokenization can be used to protect sensitive information such as bank transactions, medical records, criminal records, vehicle driver information, loan application, stock trading. Right management (DRM) or digital right management is mainly used within music, ebooks, and DVDs. With the use of DRM, the media is protected from cracking, reproducing, or tampering. It is up to the creator of the media to use DRM. Any violation of DRM can be solved a lawsuit under the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. Hardware security module. Most servers themselves need to perform encryption and decryption. However, when a server does this, a certain amount of resources are consumed. A hardware security module is a piece of hardware that is designed to perform cryptographic function. When you connect an HSM to a server rather than consuming the server resources. HSM is used for encryption and decryption other than other than encryption and decryption. HSM and can also be used for secure key generation and its management. Some of the key uses of HSM are encryption and decryption for public keys, infrastructure, ATMs, banking application, geographical considerations, whenever you are establishing a data center for your organization, you need to consider the geographical location carefully. For example, you would want to ensure that a data center is not set where hurricanes or floods are common. You have to consider several points before putting up a data center. Some of the key points are power availability, internet service provider presence, types of connectivity availability, fiber backbone availability, location of the customers. You would not put up a data center in a location where power is scarcity. Scarcity. It can cost thousands of dollars per month to run your organization on power backup system. Another example is that you are close to the customer. It gives them good thought throughput and connectivity. Closer you are the customers, less lat- latency uses when there will be cloud access security broker. In the simplest term, the ACASB is a mediator between the cloud consumer and the cloud service provider. The key role of ACASB is to bridge the security gaps from the cloud consumer to the cloud service provider, who may be running software as a service, platform as a service, or infrastructure as a service. ACASB can be also extend the organization's security policies into the cloud environment and enforce them on cloud component and service as they assess. User may be using various types of device, much as laptops or mobile. The same set of security policies which are applied in the on-premises infrastructure can be extended to the cloud infrastructure. It is known fact that organizations are quite apprehensive about putting their data in cloud. However, with CASB implementation, there are thought security control and method that can be applied to protect data. With a CASB, you can use security controls such as a web application firewall or secure web gateways. Other security offerings that a CASB may offer: malware prevention, cloud governance, risk assessment, data loss prevention, user and entity behavior analytics, threat prevention, single sign-on, data encryption, identity and access management. Response and recovery control. There are several types of control that can be used for security purposes. Security controls can be used to detect and prevent attacks. They can also be used to respond to a certain incident. When an incident such as an attack or breach occurs, response and recovery controls are used. There are several tasks that are included in the response and recovery control. Some of the key tasks are creating an incident response plan, informing the required authorities when an incident occurs, perform the root cause analysis, implementing new security control, or update an existing control to prevent similar attacks. Secure sockets layer, transport layer security inspection. A site that is secured with SSL or TLS is displayed a padlock in front of the URL in the web browser's address bar. For example, consider the following exhibit. The SSL or TLS intend to ensure that there is a secure and encrypted connection with this web server. However, the concept of SSL or TLS can work against the user. Consider an example in which a user clicks on a phishing link to a protected website with the SSL or TSL certificate. Since the information is encrypted, none of the security controls can inspect traffic to determine whether it is legitimate or illegitimate. The SSL inspection intends to verify the web page content for malicious content after user clicks on a phishing link to an SSL or TSL web-based website. SSL inspection first connects with the web server and verifies the content of the web page by decrypting it first. After it ensures that there is no malicious content, it allows the creation of the SSL or TLS connection to the web server to intend to the safeguard of the sensitive information that is sent to the web browser. Hashing. Humans have fingerprints that cannot be altered or changed. If you tamper with fingerprints, it doesn't match the original one. That cannot be considered a match with the original. Hashes are the same and are immutable fingerprints for files. When you generate a hash for a file and change file content, the hash is no longer valid. If you generate a hash, you get a different hash. Hashing is not a reversible process, and once a hash is generated, it cannot be reversed. API consideration application programming interface allows two applications to connect or access an application premium features which otherwise would be blocked. There can be an issue with an insecure application programming interface, which could lead to data compromise when application can connect to the internet and communicate with other applications. With the API, the application exchange data with each other to ensure data safety. You must ensure some of the key guidelines when using APIs. Ensure that there is strong encryption applied. There are proper authentication or authorization. Always use password hash. Ensure that HTTPS is used instead of HTTP. That timestamp are added to the request being made via API. There is there is input validation on the data being added by API that the principle of least privilege is adopted. Site resiliency. Consider a network that does not have redundancy, malware attack that the network and bring it down. In such a scenario, it would take a few days to get the network up and running. Single network site does not have resiliency to build site resiliency. You can use different sites that help you keep your organization without significant downtime. There are primarily different types of sites that can be used for resiliency. The first one is hot site, which is replica the original site when a disaster strikes on an organization's main or original site. It can always fall back on the hot site, which has the complete infrastructure and data replicated. It is possible to make the hot site operational in matter for a few hours. In an organization has to put in much money to set up the hot site to replicate the original site. The second type of the site is a warm site. Warm site. It is a partial replica of the original site. The organization may take a few days to get the site up and running, unlike the hot site. The warm site does not have complete data replicated and does not have a complete infrastructure. The third type of site is a cold site when the bare minimum infrastructure and it takes a longer time to make the site operational. The organization may have to gain on server and endpoint and make necessary arrangements for internet connectivity. This type of site takes the longest time to be operational. Deception and disruption. To safeguard a network, you may have to create a diversion of the attacker. The attacker is lured away from the actual network to one or more systems set as open system. In the diversion, this method is called deception. You want to deceive the attacker from getting into a organization's network. The attacker gets into the network because he or she wants to cause some disruption, either bringing down the network, taking control of servers, or simply stealing data. To save a network from a disruption, you can use several methods, out of which using a honeypot is one such method. Honeypots, honey files, honey nets. Without getting to know what an attacker does, it is difficult to understand the methodologies honeypots are installed to understand the attacker's methodologies. Along with this, the honeypot is a server that has several data files, which are known as honey files. These files are real-looking files with some data in them. but the data does not hold any value. These files are meant to attract the attacker. Honeypots look like real servers, and attackers cannot tell the difference whether it is a honeypot or a real server. The idea is to create deception to make an attacker believe that it is a real server. Honeypots and honey nest attempts to divert attackers from live network. They allow security personnel to observe current methodology used in attacks and gather intelligence of these attacks. In most cases, an organization's install one honeypot server. However, it is also possible to put more than one honeypot together and form a honey net network. A honey net mimics a real network and contains several honeypots. The honeypot's purpose is the same as the honeypot, save the real network and understand the attacker's methodologies. Fake telemetry. You would often deploy deception controls such as honeypot or honeynet or on your network. Fake telemetry, which is also known as deception telemetry, is the act of collecting information from deception controls. Consider the consider the scenario that you receive an alert from the honeypot that is deployed on the network. After you receive the alert, you know that someone is already inside the honeypot or is attempting to connect to a connection. Based on a information received, you have to decide on the next steps that need to be performed. For example, an attacker may have already started to explore data within the honeypot. You have to decide whether you want to mitigate or simply monitor the attacker. The fake telemetry data can help you with such decision by putting in automated security control which may divert an attacker from a real system to a decoy or honeypot. You can even block IP addresses from where the attack originates in the firewall. Then a sinkhole is also known as black hole DNS. It is used to prevent access to the malicious URL or any URL that the network administrator does not want you to access. Consider a scenario in which you receive a phishing email and accidentally click on the malicious URL or link in it. You would take to a malicious website in a normal scenario and perhaps malware gets downloaded your system. DNS sinkhole protects such as malicious link or URL. The network administrator can create a record in the DNS server and map the malicious URL to a fake IP address, which can even display a custom web page showing the access to the URL is denied. In an enterprise scenario, the firewall is the proxy server are supposed to be the first defense line and protect from malicious and unwanted URLs. However, if they fail to do the job, the DNS sinkhole can be the second defense line. Exercise 2. Set up honeypot with pen box. A honeypot is a decoy or a trap created by organizations to attract hackers into a computer system. One of the main objectives of using a honeypot is to monitor the hacker exploit the system vulnerabilities, then subsequently learn the weaknesses of the system and apply the necessary security measures to strengthen it from future attacks. Another objective is to study the attacker methodology. The final objective is to divert the hacker's attention from the main network to the decoy system. In this exercise, you will learn how to use the program called PentBox to create a basic honeypot system and test it using standard web browser to detect an intrusion. Your device will be using the following devices in this lab. Please power this on now. VLab DC1, VLab DM1, VLab Win10, and VLab Kali. Task 1. Download and install PentBox. PentBox is an application that can be configured as a honeypot penetration tester mainly used. It has a various tools available. PentBox is written in Ruby language and installed on various operating systems such as Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. The only prerequisite for its installation is that it requires the Ruby package. In this task, you will download and install a program called PentBox, then set up a basic honeypot on the Kali Linux device. A confirmation will be displayed to indicate a successful download of PentBox. The PentBox file will be extracted in its folder. You will get a notification that the honeypot activated on port 80. Keep the in, Keep the terminal window running. The PentBox tool open. Task 2. Modify proxy server exception. All devices in the Proxys Labs platform connect to proxy server. You need to add a proxy exception rule to ensure the successful connection to a device found in the lab network. Without this exception, you cannot connect and browse a web server in the local environment. In this task, you need to modify your proxy server. The Internet Explorer window is displayed at, at the far right corner of the toolbar. Select Internet option. On the Internet option dialog box, click the connection. Under the Connection tab next to Local Area Network Settings, click LAN. On the LAN settings, ensure that the bypass proxy server for local address checkbox is selected. Task 3, test honeypot functionality. After setting up the honeypot and creating the approximately exception, you need to test the honeypot functionality. In a real-world scenario, no one should be connecting to the honeypot. If someone is connecting, it means the person does not have the honest intention